Princess Zaravel stood on the observation deck of the Imperial starship Dominion, her 4 slender arms crossed in disapproval. The holographic display before her showed a small blue planet called Earth, home to the species known as humans. Her violet eyes narrowed as she studied the primitive settlements scattered across the continents. "These creatures barely discovered nuclear fission a century ago," she said to her advisor, Krelmar. The elderly Zenthari male floated beside her, his tentacles rippling with amusement. "Father expects me to believe they pose any significance to the Galactic Council?" Krelmar's bioluminescent patches flickered, indicating careful thought. "Your father, the Emperor, has received troubling reports from the outer territories. 3 Vorthon battlecruisers went silent after encountering a human exploration vessel." Zaravel laughed, a melodious sound that echoed through the chamber. "The Vorthons probably suffered mechanical failures. These humans still use chemical propulsion for their spacecraft. They communicate with radio waves. How could such primitives harm anyone?" The princess moved closer to the display, zooming in on a human city. The structures were laughably small compared to Zenthari megacities that stretched into the stratosphere. "Look at them, Krelmar. They still need to eat organic matter to survive. They age and die within mere decades. They cannot even regenerate lost limbs." "Perhaps that is precisely why we should not underestimate them," Krelmar suggested gently. "Species that face such limitations often develop unique solutions." Zaravel waved dismissively with her upper arms while her lower ones adjusted the controls. Unique solutions? They still fight wars among themselves over resources and ideological differences. A truly advanced species would have transcended such primitive behavior millennia ago. The observation deck's doors slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Thexara entered, her military uniform gleaming with badges of honor from a dozen campaigns. "Your Highness, we have received a distress signal from the Korthax mining station near the Sol system." "What kind of distress?" Zaravel asked, though her tone suggested she expected it to be unrelated to the humans. "Unknown, Princess. The transmission cut off mid-message. The station reported an encounter with a human vessel shortly before going silent." Zaravel's patches dimmed slightly, a sign of irritation. "Impossible. The Korthax station has defensive shields that could withstand a supernova. These humans probably witnessed a technical malfunction and fled in terror." "Your Highness?" Captain Thexara ventured carefully. "The Emperor has ordered us to investigate. He wants you to witness firsthand what transpired." The princess's violet eyes flashed dangerously. "My father coddles these newcomers. The Galactic Council grants membership too freely. When I ascend to the throne, standards will be much higher." Despite her protests, Zaravel knew she had no choice but to obey her father's commands. The Dominion changed course, its faster-than-light drives engaging with a subtle vibration that ran through the ship's biometallic hull. During the journey, Zaravel studied human history with the dedication of a warrior preparing for battle. What she found only reinforced her beliefs. Humans had a disturbing history of violence, from tribal conflicts to global wars. They polluted their own planet, drove species to extinction, and seemed incapable of global unity despite facing common threats. How can beings who cannot even achieve harmony on their own world contribute anything meaningful to galactic civilization? She mused aloud during one study session. Krelmar, ever present, offered a different perspective. "Consider their creativity, Your Highness. In mere centuries, they progressed from animal-powered transport to spaceflight. Their rate of technological advancement is unprecedented." "Advancement built on conflict and competition," Zaravel countered, "not through enlightened cooperation like proper civilizations." The princess also studied human biology, finding it equally unimpressive. Humans were fragile, requiring specific atmospheric conditions, regular hydration, and constant nutrition. They could be killed by temperature extremes that Zenthari children played in. Their minds could only process one complex task at a time, unlike the multi-threaded consciousness of her people. Yet something nagged at her as she reviewed footage of human activities. There was an intensity to their movements, a desperate energy in everything they did. Perhaps it came from knowing their lives were so brief. But humans seemed to pour their entire being into their actions in a way that more long-lived species did not. "Krelmar," she said during one viewing session, "why do they push themselves so hard? This human is training for a sporting event, yet he continues even though his body shows clear signs of exhaustion." "Perhaps, Your Highness, when one has limited time, every moment becomes more precious." Zaravel dismissed the notion. "Or perhaps they simply lack the wisdom to know their limitations." 3 days into their journey, they received another report. The Marlixian trade station had gone dark after reporting human contact. This station was even better defended than the Korthax facility, with redundant shield generators and a small fleet of patrol craft. "Coincidence," Zaravel declared, though her voice carried less certainty than before. "The humans are probably fleeing in terror, and these stations are experiencing unrelated difficulties." Captain Thexara brought up a tactical display. "Your Highness, both stations are along the same trajectory. It appears the human vessel is moving toward Galactic Council space." "One ship?" Zaravel studied the projected path. "You're telling me a single primitive vessel is somehow responsible for the silence of 2 major installations?" "The data suggests that possibility, Your Highness." Zaravel's patches flared bright orange, indicating her frustration. "Then we will intercept this vessel and prove once and for all that humans pose no threat to superior species. Ready all weapons." "I want to capture this ship intact to demonstrate how vastly overrated these humans are." As the Dominion continued its journey, Zaravel found herself returning repeatedly to her studies of humanity. She watched footage of their wars, expecting to find only chaos and brutality. Instead, she noticed something odd. Humans often fought hardest when defending others, particularly their young or weak. They had a concept called sacrifice that seemed to drive them to acts of apparent irrationality. One video showed a human soldier throwing himself on an explosive device to save his companions. Another depicted civilians forming chains to rescue strangers from floodwaters, risking their own lives for people they had never met. "Illogical," she muttered, but saved the files for further analysis. The princess also studied human innovation, particularly their approach to problem-solving. Where most species followed established patterns refined over millennia, humans seemed to delight in finding unconventional solutions. They called it thinking outside the box, though Zaravel couldn't understand why anyone would think inside a box to begin with. Their spacecraft designs were particularly puzzling. Where Zenthari ships were elegant and refined, built according to principles developed over millions of years, human vessels looked cobbled together. Different components seemed to serve multiple purposes, and their ships carried redundancies that proper engineering should have made unnecessary. "They build as if expecting everything to fail," she observed to Captain Thexara during a briefing. "Perhaps, Your Highness, that is because they have experienced more failures than we have, and learned from each one." Zaravel didn't respond, but the comment lingered in her thoughts. As they neared the coordinates of the Korthax station, tension aboard the Dominion increased. The crew performed their duties with perfect efficiency, but Zaravel noticed the subtle signs of nervousness. Patches flickered more rapidly, tentacles coiled tighter, and conversations were conducted in lower frequencies. "Status report," Zaravel commanded as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. "The station is intact, Your Highness," the sensor operator reported, confusion evident in their tone. "But there are no life signs, no energy readings. It's as if everything simply stopped." On the main display, the massive mining station floated silent against the stars. Its hull showed no signs of damage, no scoring from energy weapons or impact from projectiles. It simply hung there, dark and dead. "Scan for human vessels," Zaravel ordered. "None detected in the immediate vicinity, Your Highness. But we are picking up an unusual energy signature moving away from the station at sublight speed." "Follow it," the princess commanded, "and prepare boarding teams to investigate the station." As the Dominion moved to intercept the mysterious signature, Zaravel felt an unfamiliar sensation. It took her a moment to identify it: uncertainty. She had been so sure of human inferiority, but two major installations didn't simply go dark without cause. The boarding team's reports only deepened the mystery. Every system on the Korthak station had been disabled, but not through any method they recognized. No electromagnetic pulses, no computer viruses, no energy-dampening fields. The technology had simply been turned off. "How is this possible?" Zaravel demanded. "Unknown, Your Highness," the team leader responded. "It's as if someone found a way to tell the machines to stop, and they obeyed." Before Zaravel could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. "Contact!" the tactical officer announced. "Single vessel bearing 127 Mark IV. Configuration matches human design." "On screen!" Zaravel ordered, rising from her command throne. The ship that appeared on the display was exactly what she had expected, yet somehow different. It was small, barely a 20th the size of the Dominion. Its hull was a patchwork of different materials, suggesting repairs and modifications over time. Weapon ports were visible but primitive by Zenthari standards. By all rights, it should have been insignificant. But something about it made Zaravel's patches flicker involuntarily. The ship moved with purpose, neither fleeing nor attacking, simply maintaining its course as if the massive Zenthari warship was of no concern. "Hail them!" she ordered. The communication screen activated, and Zaravel got her first look at a human. The creature was smaller than she expected, with only 2 arms and a disturbingly flat face. Hair covered the top of its head, and its eyes, only 2 of them, gazed at her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "I am Princess Zaravel of the Zenthari Empire," she announced, putting all her royal authority into her voice. "You will surrender your vessel immediately and explain what you have done to our installations." The human, a female according to her files, smiled. It was a disturbing expression that showed teeth. "Your Highness," the human said, and somehow the title sounded different when she said it. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the exploration vessel Perseverance. I'm afraid I can't comply with your request." Zaravel's patches flared bright red. No one refused a royal command. "You dare defy the Zenthari Empire? Your primitive vessel stands no chance against our weapons." "Probably not," Captain Chen agreed easily. "But that's not really the point, is it?" "Explain yourself," Zaravel demanded, intrigued despite her anger. The human leaned forward slightly. "Your Highness, do you know why your stations went dark?" "You will tell me immediately, or face destruction." "They attacked us," Captain Chen said simply. "We were on a peaceful exploration mission when the Korthak station opened fire without warning. Then the Marlixian station tried to capture us for examination. We defended ourselves." "Impossible," Zaravel snarled. "Those stations had defenses that could repel entire fleets. Your weapons could not have penetrated their shields." "You're right," the human agreed. "Our weapons couldn't, so we didn't use weapons." The princess felt that uncertainty again, stronger now. "What did you use?" Captain Chen's smile widened slightly. "Princess, has it occurred to you that in all your studies of humanity, you've focused on our weaknesses, our short lives, our fragile bodies, our primitive technology?" "These are facts," Zaravel stated. "They are. But you missed something important. Humans have survived and thrived not despite our limitations, but because of them. We've had to be creative, adaptive, and most importantly, we've had to understand that the greatest strength isn't always the biggest weapon. Philosophical nonsense, Zaravel spat, but her patches betrayed her uncertainty. Is it? Captain Chen touched something off-screen. Your Highness, I'm transmitting data about what happened to your stations. No weapons were fired, no shields were breached. We simply asked their systems to stop, and they did. That's impossible. Our systems have safeguards, protocols, millions of years of refinement. Exactly, Chen interrupted. Millions of years of the same approach, the same assumptions. You build expecting certain types of attacks, certain patterns of warfare. But humans? We've had to think differently from day one. The data packet arrived, and Zaravel's technical staff began analyzing it. Their patches grew progressively paler as they worked. Your Highness, the chief scientist's voice was barely a whisper. They found harmonics in our shield frequencies that we never knew existed. They used our own communication systems to introduce a resonance cascade that shut down all electronics. It's brilliant. Zaravel stared at the human captain, seeing her truly for the first time. Not as a primitive to be dismissed, but as something else entirely. Something potentially dangerous. Why? She asked finally. Why reveal this to us? Captain Chen's expression grew serious. Because we don't want to be your enemies, Your Highness. The stations attacked first. We defended ourselves with minimal harm. Notice that all crew members were placed in stasis before the shutdown, ensuring their safety. We could have done much worse. Threats? Zaravel's patches flared again. No, just truth. Humanity doesn't want conflict with the Galactic Council. We want to learn, to grow, to contribute. But we won't be attacked or captured without defending ourselves. The princess found herself at a loss. Everything she had believed about human weakness seemed suddenly uncertain. If they could disable advanced Zenthari technology so easily, what else were they capable of? Your Highness, Captain Chen continued, I'd like to propose something. Instead of conflict, how about conversation? You came here with assumptions about humanity. Give us a chance to show you who we really are. And if I order my ship to open fire? Zaravel asked, though with less heat than before. Then you'll probably destroy us, Chen admitted. But not before we transmit everything we know about your technology to every human ship in the galaxy. Do you really want to start that arms race? It wasn't a threat, Zaravel realized. It was a simple statement of cause and effect. The humans understood escalation in a way that made her deeply uncomfortable. What do you propose? She asked finally. Come aboard the Perseverance, you and a small delegation. See how we live, how we think. Talk to us. Let us show you that humanity's strength isn't in our weapons or our technology, but in our perspective. Every protocol, every tradition, every instinct told Zaravel to refuse. A princess of the Zenthari Empire did not board primitive vessels. She did not negotiate with lesser species. She certainly did not admit to being wrong. But as she stared at the small patchwork ship on her screen, she felt something she had rarely experienced: curiosity. If humans could surprise her this much already, what else might she learn? Give me one reason why I should trust you, she said. Captain Chen's smile returned, softer this time. Because trust, Your Highness, is another one of those human concepts that seems like weakness until you realize it's a strength. We're extending it to you. The question is, are you strong enough to accept it? The bridge fell silent as everyone waited for Zaravel's decision. The princess stood motionless, her 4 arms gradually uncrossing as she considered. Everything she had been taught, everything she had believed, stood on one side of the choice. On the other stood only uncertainty and the possibility of understanding something new. In that moment, Princess Zaravel of the Xanthari Empire made a decision that would change not only her own perspective, but potentially the future of the galaxy itself. Princess Zaravel stood in the cramped airlock of the human vessel. Perseverance, her 4 arms twitching with barely controlled anxiety. Behind her, Krelmar and 2 elite guards waited, their patches flickering between colors of alertness and unease. The primitive metal walls around them seemed to close in, so different from the bioorganic curves of Xanthari architecture. "Pressure equalized," Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system. "You can enter when ready, Your Highness." The inner door opened with a mechanical grinding that made Zaravel wince. Such crude technology. Yet this same vessel had somehow disabled 2 of their most advanced stations. The contradiction gnawed at her. The first thing that struck her was the smell. The Perseverance had an organic scent, not unpleasant, but alien. It spoke of living beings in close quarters, of recycled air and human activity. Xanthari ships were sterile, their atmospheres perfectly controlled. This was different. Alive. Captain Chen waited on the other side, flanked by 2 other humans. One was a tall male with dark skin and a mechanical prosthetic where his left arm should be. The other was a smaller female with intricate markings on her face that Zaravel realized were decorative scars. "Your Highness," Chen said with a gesture that Zaravel recognized as a bow. "Welcome aboard the Perseverance. This is Commander Marcus Williams and Dr. Yuki Tanaka." "Your ship is smaller than expected," Zaravel said, unable to keep the disdain from her voice as she looked around the narrow corridor. "Efficient," Commander Williams corrected with a smile that showed no offense. "Every cubic meter serves at least 3 purposes. We can show you if you're interested." "What happened to your arm?" one of Zaravel's guards asked, his tone accusatory. Williams glanced at his prosthetic. "Mining accident on Europa, about 10 years ago. The replacement works better than the original, actually. Dr. Tanaka designed it." Zaravel studied the prosthetic with new interest. It was clearly mechanical, yet moved with surprising fluidity. "You replaced your biological limb with technology?" "Adapted." Tanaka spoke for the first time. "That's what humans do. We adapt." Chen led them through the ship, and Zaravel found herself increasingly puzzled. Everything was cramped by Xanthari standards, yet utilized with incredible efficiency. The mess hall doubled as a meeting room and emergency medical bay. The recreation area contained exercise equipment that folded into the walls, revealing a small hydroponic garden that supplemented their food supply. "Why grow food when you have synthesis technology?" Krelmar asked, examining the plants with scientific curiosity. "Backup systems," Chen explained. "Also, there's something psychologically important about tending living things during long voyages. Keeps us grounded." They entered what Chen called the workshop, and Zaravel stopped in surprise. The room was chaos incarnate. Tools, parts, half-assembled devices scattered across every surface. 3 humans worked at different stations, apparently building or repairing equipment. "This is where the magic happens," Williams said with pride. "Every problem we can't solve with standard equipment we solve here." "You build your own tools?" Zaravel couldn't hide her shock. "Without automated factories?" A young human looked up from where she was welding something. "Have to, ma'am. When you're months from the nearest supply depot and something breaks, you either fix it, build a replacement, or die." "We prefer the first 2 options." Zaravel watched as the young woman returned to her work, manually controlling the welding tool with steady hands. No AI assistance, no robotic precision, just human skill and concentration. "Show her the thing, Lisa," Tanaka suggested. The young woman, Lisa, grinned and held up her project. It appeared to be some kind of sensor array, but unlike anything in Xanthari databases. Components from different technologies were integrated in ways that should have been incompatible. Cobbled this together from a broken Marlixian scanner, some Vorthon processing chips we traded for, and good old human ingenuity, Lisa explained. It can detect subspace fluctuations that most sensors miss. That's impossible, one of Zaravel's guards protested. Those technologies use completely different base principles. That's what makes it work, Lisa replied. Everyone else stays in their own tech lanes. We merge them. They continued the tour, and Zaravel noticed something else unusual. The crew seemed genuinely happy. They joked with each other, shared quick touches of affection or camaraderie, worked together with an ease that spoke of deep familiarity. On Zenthari ships, hierarchy was absolute. Here, Captain Chen helped clean dishes after the meal. Commander Williams taught a junior crew member card tricks during a break. "How do you maintain discipline?" Zaravel asked Chen quietly as they watched the casual interactions. "By earning respect, not demanding it," Chen replied. "Every person on this ship chose to be here, knowing the risks. They follow my orders because they trust me, not because they fear me. And when that trust breaks," Chen's expression grew serious, "then I've failed as a captain. Leadership isn't about power, Your Highness. It's about responsibility." They reached what Chen called the observation lounge, a small room with a transparent aluminum window showing the stars. It was the only space on the ship that seemed designed for comfort rather than utility, with soft seats and warm lighting. "We spend a lot of time here," Chen explained as they sat. "Helps remind us why we're out here." "Why are you out here?" Zaravel asked, genuinely curious now. "Your species has barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Why risk venturing so far from your home?" The three humans exchanged glances, and it was Tanaka who answered. "Because that's what humans do. We explore. We push boundaries. We see a mountain and we climb it, an ocean and we cross it, the stars and we reach for them." "Even knowing you might die?" Krelmar asked. "Especially then," Williams added. "The risk makes it worthwhile. Safe achievements are rarely meaningful ones." Zaravel's patches flickered with confusion. "You actively seek danger?" "We seek challenge," Chen corrected. "There's a difference. Danger is just an obstacle to overcome." "Show her the memorial," Tanaka suggested quietly. Chen hesitated, then nodded. She led them to a small alcove Zaravel had overlooked. The wall held pictures, dozens of human faces, some smiling, some serious, all looking directly at the camera with that intensity she was beginning to recognize as distinctly human. "Every human who's died pushing our boundaries," Chen explained softly. "Not just explorers, scientists who experimented on themselves to cure diseases, engineers who went into failing reactors to prevent meltdowns, volunteers who tested dangerous technologies so others wouldn't have to." Zaravel studied the faces. So many of them, and these were just the ones this crew chose to honor. "Your species celebrates death? We celebrate sacrifice," Williams corrected. "Those people knew the risks and chose to face them anyway, for something greater than themselves." "The Zenthari way is safer," Zaravel stated, but the words felt hollow even to her. "Safer, yes," Chen agreed. "But is it living? Your species has had spaceflight for millions of years. In that time, how much has your technology really changed? How many new frontiers have you explored?" The question stung because Zaravel knew the answer. Zenthari technology had been essentially static for millennia. They had achieved a comfortable plateau and saw no reason to risk leaving it. "You said you'd explain how you disabled our stations," she said, changing the subject. Chen smiled. "Dr. Tanaka can explain better than I can." Tanaka pulled out a small device, a cobbled-together thing that looked like it might fall apart at any moment. "Your station's defenses are nearly perfect. shields that adapt to any energy frequency, hulls that self-repair, AI systems that predict and counter any conventional attack. Yes, Zaravel said proudly. They're impregnable. Against conventional attacks, Tanaka agreed. But humans don't always think conventionally. Your shields operate by creating harmonic frequencies that neutralize incoming energy, right? Zaravel nodded slowly. What happens if instead of trying to break through those harmonics, we sing along with them? The princess's patches paled. You harmonized with our shields? More than that, Tanaka continued. We used your own communication systems to introduce subtle variations in those harmonics. Not enough to trigger alarms. Your systems saw it as normal fluctuation. But over time, those fluctuations created a resonance cascade. Like a singer breaking glass, Williams added helpfully. Your defensive systems are so complex, so interconnected, that when one component started resonating, it spread through the entire network. The more sophisticated the system, the more vulnerable it was to this approach. Zaravel felt a chill run through her. You turned our strength into weakness. We found a different path, Chen said gently. That's what humans do. We can't match your shields or weapons, so we found another way. But how did you even conceive of such an approach? Krelmar asked, his scientific curiosity overcoming protocol. The humans exchanged those glances again. Want to show them the music room? Williams suggested. The music room was barely larger than a closet, containing various instruments that looked handmade. Williams picked up a stringed device and began to play, producing sounds that were mathematically imperfect, yet somehow pleasing. Music is important to humans, Chen explained. We've been making it since before we had written language. It taught us about harmonics, resonance, the way sounds can build on each other. This led to your weapon? Zaravel asked incredulously. Everything connects, Tanaka said. Music taught us harmonics. Mathematics showed us the patterns. Engineering let us apply them. Philosophy asked why we should. All human knowledge is interconnected, each piece building on the others. Williams continued playing, and other crew members began gathering, some humming along, others tapping rhythms. It was chaotic by Zenthari standards, yet somehow cohesive. You're all different, Zaravel observed. Different sizes, colors, ages, even your biological sexes vary. How do you function as a unit? Diversity is strength, Chen said. Lisa thinks differently than Marcus. Yuki sees patterns I miss. Every perspective adds something. The Zenthari prize unity, Zaravel countered. Conformity ensures efficiency. Does it, though? Tanaka asked. When everyone thinks the same way, you get the same solutions, the same blind spots. As if to demonstrate, Lisa called out from the doorway. Captain, I've been thinking about the princess's question, about why we take risks. I think it's because we know we're temporary. The other humans nodded understanding, but Zaravel was confused. Explain. Lisa entered the room fully. Zenthari live for centuries, right? You have time to be careful, to perfect things slowly. Humans get maybe 80 years if we're lucky, 100 with life extension. A limitation, Zaravel said. A motivation, Lisa corrected. I've got maybe 60 years left. In that time, I want to see the rings of Kepler 442b. Figure out how to merge quantum drives with jump technology, maybe find a way to communicate with the crystalline entities. I don't have time to be careful. So you rush forward recklessly? We rush forward purposefully, Chen interjected. Every human knows their time is limited. It makes every choice matter more. Zaravel found herself thinking of the memorial wall. All those faces, those brief lives burned bright and ended for causes they believed in. It was wasteful. It was illogical. It was magnificent, she whispered, surprising herself. The humans fell silent, watching her. I mean, she corrected quickly, magnificently foolish. But Chen smiled. Perhaps, But consider this. In less than 300 years, we've gone from first flight to interstellar travel. At our current rate of advancement, where will we be in another century? Another millennium? Dead, most likely, one of Zaravel's guards muttered. Maybe, Williams agreed cheerfully. But what a ride it'll be. They moved to what Chen called the Strategic Center, essentially a repurposed storage room with displays showing star charts and data. Zaravel expected to see military formations, weapon specifications, tactical analyses. Instead, she saw trade routes, cultural exchange programs, scientific collaboration proposals. "This is your strategic planning?" she asked, confused. "Humanity's greatest strategic asset isn't our weapons," Chen explained. "It's our ability to make friends, to find common ground, to turn potential enemies into allies. The Vorthons attacked you," Zaravel pointed out. "And now 3 Vorthon engineers are studying at Earth universities," Tanaka added. "We responded to their attack by offering to share medical technology that helps with their species' genetic disorders. Hard to maintain hostility when someone's saving your children." "Manipulation," Zaravel accused. "Mutual benefit," Chen corrected. "We help them, they help us, everyone grows stronger." "What about species that refuse cooperation?" Chen's expression hardened slightly. "Then we defend ourselves. But defense doesn't mean destruction. Those stations could have been obliterated. Instead, their crews are safe and the stations can be repaired. We showed strength without cruelty." "Why?" Zaravel pressed. "Why show mercy to those who attacked you?" "Because," Williams said, setting aside his instrument. "Today's enemy might be tomorrow's friend. Burn that bridge and you lose that possibility forever." They talked for hours. The humans showed her their database, not of weapons or defenses, but of every species they'd encountered. Biological data, yes, but also cultural information, art, music, philosophy. They had been building a comprehensive picture of galactic civilization, finding connections and commonalities. "You're looking for weaknesses," Zaravel accused at one point. "We're looking for understanding," Tanaka corrected. "Weaknesses are just strengths applied differently, like your shields." As the discussion continued, Zaravel found her worldview shifting uncomfortably. These humans weren't the primitives she'd expected. They were something else, a species that had turned every limitation into innovation, every setback into learning, every conflict into an opportunity for growth. "I need to ask something," she said finally. "If you can disable our technology so easily, why haven't you done more? Why not disable our entire fleet, force your way into the Galactic Council?" The humans looked genuinely shocked at the suggestion. "Because that's not who we want to be," Chen said firmly. "We could probably cause a lot of damage, yes. But then what? Rule through fear? Become the very thing we fought against on our own world? No, thank you." "Power without wisdom is destruction," Tanaka added. "We've seen that too many times in our history." "Then what do you want?" Zaravel asked, genuinely puzzled. "To explore," Lisa said immediately. "To learn," Tanaka added. "To grow," Williams contributed. "To belong," Chen finished. "We want to be part of something greater than ourselves. Not to rule it, but to contribute to it, to make the galaxy better than we found it." Zaravel's patches cycled through colors as she processed this. Such simple goals, yet so different from the power plays and positioning she was used to in galactic politics. "Your father," Chen said carefully, "sent you here to see if humans were a threat. What will you tell him?" The question hung in the air. Zaravel knew what she should say, that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, that their ability to disable Zenthari technology made them a clear threat to Imperial security. But as she looked around the small room, at these fragile beings with their short lives and boundless dreams, she found herself thinking differently. "I don't know yet," she admitted, surprising everyone, including herself. Chen nodded. "Fair enough. Would you like to see one more thing before you decide? She led them back to the observation lounge, but this time activated a holographic display. It showed Earth, not the strategic target Zaravel had studied, but Earth as the humans saw it. Cities glowing in the night, forests breathing with life, oceans swirling with currents, children playing in parks, artists creating beauty, scientists making discoveries. 7 billion humans, Chen said softly, each one unique, each one with dreams, fears, hopes. This is what we carry with us out here, not our weapons or our technology, but our humanity. And if someone threatens that? Zaravel asked. Chen's eyes hardened. Then they learn why a species that evolved on a death world, that fought its way from prey to predator, that survived ice ages and plagues and wars and its own worst impulses should not be underestimated. But only then, Williams added. Only when there's no other choice. Zaravel stared at the hologram, seeing Earth truly for the first time. Not as a primitive world to be dismissed, but as a crucible that had forged something remarkable. Your Highness, Krelmar said quietly, we should return to the Dominion. You have much to consider. She nodded slowly. As they prepared to leave, Captain Chen offered something unexpected. Your Highness, I know trust doesn't come easily between our species, but I want to give you something. She handed Zaravel a small device. This contains the technical specifications for our harmonics disruptor. Study it. Learn from it. Develop countermeasures if you feel you must. Zaravel stared at the device in shock. You're giving me your weapon? I'm giving you knowledge, Chen corrected. What you do with it defines who you are, not who we are. Why would you do this? Zaravel couldn't understand. I could use this against you. You could, Chen agreed, but I don't think you will. Because now you understand that our greatest weapon isn't technology. It's our willingness to trust, to take risks, to believe in the better nature of others, even when they point weapons at us. As Zaravel took the device, her patches flickered with emotions she couldn't quite name. These humans had disarmed her more effectively than any weapon could have. Captain Chen, she said formally, I will consider everything I've learned here. That's all we can ask, Chen replied. As they walked back to the airlock, Zaravel noticed something else. The crew members they passed all nodded respectfully to her, but there was no fear in their eyes. They saw her not as a conqueror to be appeased, but as a guest to be honored. At the airlock, Commander Williams offered a final thought. Your Highness, you asked why we explore, why we take risks. The real answer is simple. We're looking for others like us, not in body or technology, but in spirit. Beings who look at the universe and see not something to be conquered, but something to be experienced. And if you find such beings? Zaravel asked. Then we've found friends, William smiled. And there's nothing more powerful than that. As the airlock cycled, returning Zaravel and her delegation to their shuttle, she found her mind racing. Everything she had believed about strength and weakness, about primitive and advanced, had been challenged in just a few hours. Your Highness? Krelmar ventured as their shuttle departed. What are your thoughts? Zaravel watched the Perseverance through the viewport, small, patched together, seemingly insignificant against the stars. Yet it carried something that all the might of the Zenthari Empire couldn't match. Perspective. I think, she said slowly, that Father was right to send us here, but not for the reasons he believed. Your Highness. The humans aren't a threat to our empire, Krelmar. They're a threat to our complacency, to our assumptions, to everything we think we know about strength and progress. Is that not dangerous? Zaravel's patches shifted to a color her advisor had never seen before, something between wonder and determination. Perhaps, she admitted. But as the humans would say, the greatest achievements often come from the greatest risks. And I'm beginning to think the real risk isn't in what they might do to us, but in what we might miss by not learning from them. As their shuttle approached the Dominion, Zaravel clutched the device Chen had given her. Not just a weapon, but a test, a challenge, an opportunity. She thought of Captain Chen's words about trust, about reaching for something greater. For the first time in her centuries of life, Princess Zaravel of the Zenthari Empire felt truly young. There was so much to learn, so much to reconsider. The humans had shown her their power, but more importantly, they had shown her their humanity. And somehow, that was infinitely more transformative. The imperial throne room of Zenthari Prime had witnessed countless moments of historical significance over its million-year existence. Treaties had been signed, wars declared, and the fates of entire species decided within its crystalline walls. But Princess Zaravel suspected that what was about to unfold might eclipse them all. Emperor Velthron floated in the center of the vast chamber, his ancient form radiating power and wisdom accumulated over 12 centuries of rule. Around him, the Council of Hierarchs formed a perfect circle, representatives of the oldest and most powerful species in the Galactic Council. Their patches glowed with skepticism and barely concealed hostility as they regarded the small group of humans standing before them. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the center of her delegation, appearing impossibly small among the towering aliens. Yet there was something in her bearing that made her seem larger than her physical form suggested. Beside her stood Ambassador David Okonkwo, humanity's newly appointed representative, and a handful of others Zaravel recognized from her visit to the Perseverance. The purpose of this gathering, the Emperor began, his voice resonating through harmonic frequencies that made the walls sing, is to determine humanity's petition for membership in the Galactic Council. Princess Zaravel, as witness to recent events, will present her findings. Zaravel moved to the center, feeling the weight of history on her 4 shoulders. 3 months had passed since her encounter with the humans, 3 months of studying their gift, of reconsidering everything she thought she knew, of preparing for this moment. Honored Hierarchs, she began formally, I was sent to investigate reports of human interference with our installations. What I discovered was far more significant than anyone anticipated. They attacked our stations! Hierarch Thexanila of the Vorthons interrupted, her warrior's pride still stinging from the embarrassment. This is not a species seeking membership, but one declaring war. If I may, Captain Chen interjected calmly. Those stations fired on us first. We defended ourselves with minimal force and ensured no loss of life. Surely self-defense is a right recognized by all civilized species. Minimal force? Hierarch Koldash of the Marlixians scoffed. You disabled defensive systems that have protected our assets for millennia. Which is precisely why we should fear them, added Hierarch Zet-Ani of the Crystallids, her transparent form pulsing with agitation. If they can neutralize our defenses so easily, what else are they capable of? Zaravel raised her upper arms for silence. This fear is exactly what I wish to address. Yes, the humans found a vulnerability in our systems. But instead of exploiting it, they chose to reveal it. Captain Chen personally gave me the specifications of their harmonics disruptor. Shocked silence greeted this revelation. The Emperor's patches flickered with interest. Is this true, Captain? It is. Your Majesty, Chen confirmed. We believe knowledge should be shared, especially when it can prevent future conflicts. Foolishness, Thexanila snarled. Or deception. Why would any species give away such an advantage? Ambassador Okonkwo stepped forward. Because, honored Hierarch, we don't see it as an advantage to hold over you, but as a problem to solve together. Our engineer, Dr. Tanaka, has been working with Princess Zaravel's scientists to develop countermeasures. She's made significant progress. You're helping us defend against your own weapon? Hierarch Melthar of the Saurians asked, his reptilian features showing confusion. Of course, Chen replied. A galaxy where everyone is vulnerable helps no one. We'd rather have neighbors who feel secure than ones who fear us. This makes no strategic sense, Zetani protested. Every species guards its technological advantages jealously. And where has that led us? Zaravel asked, surprising herself with the boldness of the question. Honored hierarchs, when was the last time any of our civilizations made a truly revolutionary discovery? When did we last push the boundaries of what's possible? We have achieved perfection, Koldash stated proudly. There is no need for revolution when optimization is complete. The humans would disagree, Zaravel said, activating a holographic display. In the 3 months since our first contact, they've developed 17 new applications for the harmonic principle they discovered. Not weapons, but medical devices, communication enhancers, and agricultural tools. The display showed human colonies where the adapted technology was being used to treat previously incurable diseases in alien species, to establish communication with the semi-sentient mist dancers of Proxima 7th, to increase crop yields on marginal worlds. They shared these freely with any species that requested them, Zaravel continued. No payment demanded, no political concessions required. They simply gave. Nothing is free, Thexanila growled. What do they truly want? Chen and Okonkwo exchanged glances. Then the captain spoke. We want to survive, to explore, to grow. But more than that, we want to ensure that our children, all our children, human and otherwise, inherit a galaxy better than the one we found. Pretty words, Melthar hissed. But your history speaks otherwise. Wars, genocide, environmental destruction. You couldn't even unite your own planet without centuries of bloodshed. You're right, Okonkwo admitted without hesitation. Our history is filled with mistakes, some of them terrible. But that's precisely why we're here. We learned from those mistakes. Every war taught us the cost of peace. Every environmental disaster showed us the value of balance. Every genocide reminded us that diversity is strength, not weakness. You speak of learning, the Emperor interjected, his ancient eyes studying the humans intently. What have you learned from your encounters with us? Dr. Tanaka stepped forward. Your Majesty, we've learned that the galaxy is far more wondrous than we imagined. Each species we've encountered has taught us something new. The Zenthari showed us the beauty of bioengineering. The Vorthons demonstrated the elegance of crystalline computing. The Marlixians revealed new principles of energy manipulation. You study us, Zet Ani accused. We learn from you, Tanaka corrected. And we hope you'll learn from us in return. Human perspective, combined with galactic knowledge, could unlock possibilities none of us can imagine alone. Show them the Earth Project, Chen suggested quietly. Okonkwo nodded and activated another display. It showed a blue world, scarred but healing. Honored hierarchs, Earth was dying when we achieved spaceflight. Our oceans were acidifying, our atmosphere was warming, our ecosystems were collapsing. We could have abandoned it, found new worlds to colonize. Instead, we chose to fix what we had broken. The display showed massive restoration projects, technologies that scrubbed carbon from the air, cities that floated on the oceans they once polluted, vertical farms that fed billions while returning land to nature. It took us 2 centuries, Okonkwo continued, but we healed our world. Not perfectly, the scars remain. But Earth lives, thrives even. We offer this same commitment to the galaxy, not to exploit, but to nurture, not to conquer, but to cultivate. Assuming we believe your intentions, Hierarch Yelana of the Ethereals spoke for the first time, her gaseous form swirling thoughtfully. There remains the question of your methods. You think differently than we do. Dangerously so. Different isn't dangerous, a new voice said from the human delegation. Zaravel recognized Lisa, the young engineer from the Perseverance. Different is just different. It's fear of difference that's dangerous. You dare lecture the hierarchs? Thexnila roared. I dare speak truth, Lisa replied, undaunted by the massive warrior. Every species here was once the newcomer, once the different one. The Zenthari were considered too fluid, too changeable. The Vorthons too aggressive, the Ethereals too alien to even communicate with. But you found your places, contributed your strengths. Why deny us the same chance? Because you're reckless. Cold Dash slammed the appendage against the floor. You modify your own bodies with technology. You take risks no sane species would consider. You treat death as if it's a game to be played. We treat death as inevitable, Commander Williams, who had been silent until now, said quietly. His prosthetic arm caught the light as he moved, which makes life precious. Every moment matters when you don't have many of them. This is precisely the problem, Melthar hissed. Your mortality makes you desperate. Dangerous. You burn too bright and too fast. Perhaps, Zaravel said, drawing attention back to herself. But in their brief flames, they illuminate possibilities we've forgotten to see. Honored hierarchs, I've spent 3 months studying not just human technology, but human culture, philosophy, art. Do you know what I found? She activated another display, this one showing human creations. Music that combined mathematical precision with emotional chaos. Paintings that captured moments of transcendent beauty. Literature that explored the depths of consciousness and the meaning of existence. Architecture that defied conventional physics through ingenious design rather than advanced technology. I found a species that creates beauty because beauty matters, not because it serves a function. That asks questions not to find answers, but to find better questions. That faces the universe not with the certainty of the ancient, but with the wonder of the eternal child. Poetry, Zetani dismissed. The council deals in reality, not sentiment. Then let me speak of reality. Zaravel's patches flared with determination. The reality is that our civilizations have stagnated. We've become so focused on maintaining what we have that we've forgotten how to reach for what we might achieve. The humans disturb us, not because they're primitive, but because they remind us of what we've lost. You've been corrupted by their thinking, Thexnila accused. I've been awakened by it, Zaravel countered. When did you last take a risk, Hierarch Thexnila? When did any of us last attempt something that might fail? We've become so afraid of loss that we've forgotten how to grow. The Emperor raised a limb, and silence fell. Captain Chen, if humanity is granted membership, what assurance can you give that your unique approaches won't destabilize our carefully maintained order? Chen stepped forward, and in that moment, Zaravel saw her not as a primitive from a backwater world, but as a leader who had crossed the void between stars with nothing but hope and determination. Your Majesty, I can't promise we won't make mistakes. We're human. Mistakes are part of our process, but I can promise that we'll learn from them, that we'll always choose cooperation over conquest, that we'll bring to the Council not just our perspectives, but our passion for making things better. Even if it means changing things that have worked for millions of years, Yelana asked. Especially then, Okonkwo added, because working isn't the same as thriving. A galaxy in stasis is a galaxy preparing for entropy. We offer the chaos of growth, yes, but also its rewards. And if we refuse, Melthar asked coldly, if we decide humanity is too disruptive, too dangerous to join our ranks? The humans exchanged glances, and it was Lisa who answered. Then we'll be disappointed, We'll continue exploring on our own, making friends where we can, learning what we're able, but the galaxy will be poorer for it. Not because of what we might have given, but because of what we might have discovered together. Threats? Several hierarchs hissed in unison. Hope? Chen corrected gently. We've seen what our species can do alone. Imagine what all our species could do together. The debate raged for hours. Hierarchs cited precedents and protocols, worried about contamination of their perfect systems, feared the unpredictability humans represented. The humans responded not with anger, but with patience, not with force, but with examples, not with demands, but with offers. Through it all, Zaravel found herself watching her father. The Emperor had ruled for longer than some civilizations had existed. He had seen species rise and fall, had made decisions that shaped the galaxy. Now he faced perhaps his greatest challenge, whether to embrace change or resist it. Finally, the Emperor called for silence. I have heard all arguments. Princess Zaravel, you have studied these humans most closely. What is your recommendation? This was the moment Zaravel had both anticipated and dreaded. Her words would carry enormous weight. She could feel the eyes of history upon her. Father, honored hierarchs, 3 months ago I would have recommended rejection without hesitation. Humans seemed primitive, reckless, dangerous. They still are all of these things. The hierarchs murmured approval, while the humans remained silent. But, Zaravel continued, her voice growing stronger, they are also innovative, compassionate, and courageous in ways we have forgotten how to be. They see the universe not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be explored. They face their limitations not with despair, but with determination. They offer their hands in friendship even to those who greet them with weapons. She turned to address the council directly. We have achieved much in our millions of years. We have built wonders, explored galaxies, created technologies that border on magic. But when did we last feel wonder? When did we last attempt the impossible simply because it was impossible? When did we last risk everything for a dream? Her patches glowed with conviction as she delivered her verdict. I recommend humanity be granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Not despite their differences, but because of them. They will challenge us, yes. They will make mistakes, absolutely. They will force us to question things we have taken for granted for eons. And that, honored hierarchs, is exactly what we need. The chamber erupted. Hierarchs argued, debated, accused. Through it all, the humans stood quietly, waiting. Zaravel noticed Chen place a calming hand on Lisa's shoulder when the young woman seemed about to interject. Enough, the Emperor commanded, and silence fell like a physical weight. We will vote. All in favor of granting humanity provisional membership in the Galactic Council? One by one, lights appeared. Zaravel held her breath as she counted. Yelena of the Ethereals was first, her vote glowing soft blue. Others followed slowly. Some species she expected, others surprised her. When the final count came, it was close, closer than any vote in recent memory. But it was enough. By a margin of 1 vote, the Emperor announced, humanity is granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. Full membership will be reviewed in 1 solar rotation. The humans remained composed, but Zaravel could see the emotion in their eyes. Chen stepped forward and bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty. Honored hierarchs, we won't disappoint you. See that you don't, Thexanila growled. We'll be watching. We hope you will, Okonkwo replied. How else will you learn from us? As the formal session ended and beings began to disperse, Zaravel found herself approached by Captain Chen. Thank you, the human said simply. I know that couldn't have been easy. It was necessary, Zaravel replied. though I fear I've made enemies among my own kind." Chen smiled. That expression Zaravel had once found disturbing, but now recognized as warmth. The hardest battles are often with our own people. But change doesn't come from comfort. A human philosophy? A universal truth. We just happened to learn it early. They stood together, watching as humans and aliens began to mingle, some cautiously, others with curiosity. Lisa was already deep in discussion with a young Marlixian engineer, their hands moving animatedly as they sketched ideas in the air. Williams was sharing stories with a group of Vorthon warriors, his prosthetic arm drawing particular interest. "What happens now?" Zaravel asked. "Now." Chen looked around the ancient chamber that had witnessed so much history. "Now we do what humans do best. We learn, we grow, we make friends, we make mistakes, we try again, we reach for the impossible. And if you fail?" Chen's smile widened. "Then we fail spectacularly and learn something new from it. But, Princess, what if we succeed? What if together we achieve things none of us could imagine alone?" Zaravel felt her patches shift to match the hope in the human's voice. For the first time in her long life, the future seemed not like something to be preserved, but something to be created. "Captain Chen," she said formally, "I believe I would like to learn more about this human concept of friendship." "Well then," Chen extended her hand in that peculiar human gesture of greeting and agreement. "Let's start there." As Zaravel reached out with one of her own hands to complete the gesture, she realized this simple touch represented more than just contact between two beings. It was a bridge between worldviews, a connection between the ancient and the ambitious, a promise that the galaxy would never be quite the same. The human's grip was warm and firm, despite their fragile appearance. In that moment, Zaravel understood something fundamental about humanity's power. It wasn't in their weapons or their technology. It wasn't even in their creativity or courage. It was in their ability to reach out, again and again, offering connection even in the face of rejection, building bridges where others saw only walls. The Emperor approached them, his ancient form moving with surprising grace. "Captain Chen, you have achieved something remarkable today. But the real work begins now." "We understand, Your Majesty," Chen replied respectfully. "We're ready for the challenges ahead." "Are you?" The Emperor's patches flickered with something that might have been amusement. "You'll face suspicion, hostility, attempts to prove you don't belong. Some species will test you, others will try to use you, and many will hope for your failure." "Sounds like humanity's entire history," Williams commented, joining them. "We're used to being the underdog." "Perhaps," the Emperor mused, "but you've never been the underdog on a galactic scale before." "Then we'll learn," Okonkwo said confidently. "It's what we do." The Emperor studied them for a long moment, then turned to his daughter. "Zaravel, you've grown much in these past months. I name you special liaison to humanity. You will help them navigate our ways and perhaps learn some of theirs." Zaravel's patches glowed with surprise and honor. "Father, thank you." "Don't thank me yet," he warned gently. "This position will bring you as many challenges as it brings them. Many will see you as compromised, too influenced by human thinking." "Then they'll be right," Zaravel said firmly. "Human thinking has shown me possibilities I never imagined. If that's compromise, I accept it gladly." The Emperor's form seemed to brighten. "Then perhaps there's hope for this old galaxy yet. Captain Chen, Ambassador Okonkwo, welcome to the Galactic Council. May your journey be interesting." As the Emperor glided away, the humans and Zaravel stood together in the ancient chamber. Around them, the business of galactic governance continued, but something fundamental had shifted. A new perspective had been added to the council's deliberations, a voice that would question, challenge, and inspire in equal measure. "So," Lisa said, bouncing slightly on her feet with barely contained excitement, "when do we get to see the really cool stuff?" "I heard the ethereals have cities that exist in 5 dimensions simultaneously." "Patience," Tanaka counseled, but she too looked eager. "We have time now. Not much by galactic standards, but enough." "Time to make a difference," Chen added. "To prove that diversity strengthens rather than weakens. To show that cooperation yields better results than isolation." "And time to explore." Williams grinned. "Don't forget the exploring. I've got a list of nebulae I want to visit that's longer than my arm. Both of them." Zaravel found herself laughing, another human trait she'd adopted. "I believe I can arrange some of that, though you might find that the reality exceeds even your imagination." "Perfect," all the humans said in unison, then laughed at their synchronicity. As they left the throne room together, Zaravel reflected on how much had changed since she'd first dismissed humans as primitive weaklings. They were still physically fragile, technologically behind, and almost absurdly short-lived. But they possessed something that all the advanced civilizations of the galaxy had gradually lost: the courage to be vulnerable, the wisdom to seek help, and the strength to transform weakness into opportunity. The galaxy had accepted humanity, if barely. But more than that, humanity had begun to change the galaxy simply by being themselves. Questions were being asked that hadn't been voiced in millennia. Assumptions were being challenged. Partnerships were forming between species that had barely acknowledged each other's existence. It wouldn't be easy. There would be conflicts, misunderstandings, and failures. Some species would never accept humanity, viewing them as dangerous disruptors of the established order. Others would try to exploit their perceived weaknesses. Many would test their resolve in ways both subtle and direct. But as Zaravel watched Captain Chen organizing her people for their next steps, as she saw the determination in their faces and the hope in their hearts, she knew they would persevere. Not because they were strong in conventional terms, but because they had mastered the art of turning obstacles into opportunities. The alien princess, who had never believed in human power, now understood it perfectly. Their power lay not in domination, but in connection. Not in perfection, but in persistence. Not in having all the answers, but in never stopping asking questions. As they emerged into the starlight of Zenthari Prime, Chen turned to Zaravel one more time. "Princess, that harmonics disruptor we developed, Tanaka's team has been working on something new. A way to use the same principles for terraforming dead worlds, bringing life where none existed before. Would your scientists be interested in collaborating?" Zaravel's patches glowed with excitement. "Transform destruction into creation? That's very human of you." "We try," Chen grinned. "After all, if we're going to be part of this galaxy, we might as well help make it bloom." Looking up at the stars that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, Zaravel saw them differently now. Not as distant lights marking the territory of various species, but as destinations yet to be explored, mysteries yet to be solved, friends yet to be made. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not with conquest, but with curiosity, not with demands, but with dreams, not with power, but with potential. And in doing so, they had reminded an ancient galaxy what it meant to be young. The real adventure was just beginning.